Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Indie Author interview series. This is Pip Coleman, and today I have as my guest Catherine Haigh, all the way from Queensland. Welcome to the show, Catherine.
Thank you, Pippa. Pleased to be here. Second time lucky.
Yes, yes. We're having fun and games with our internet today, and so we've just decided that we're going to do it this way instead, which is fun. This is good fun. This is good. So Catherine, the lovely Catherine, is joining me, as I said, from Queensland, and she's has her own business with a Montessori preschool, and she's been teaching for 30 years in various schools around the world. So today she's going to be talking to us about her beautiful book that she's written, and more. I hear there are more in the works. So welcome to the show. Perhaps you could share, Catherine, how you came to be a teacher and what inspired you to write the book.
Okay, yeah. So hi, everybody. I decided I wanted to be a teacher from the age of 5, and sometimes things don't quite go that way. And I started looking after children and having an interest in them in my teens. And I got a job in London as a nanny. Yeah. After 4 years, I got the opportunity to go to Florida, and I was a nanny over there, and that's how I came across the Montessori philosophy and education. It's quite big actually in America.
Yes.
So it is, isn't it? Yeah. So one of the families used to send their children there, and the owner and teacher there said, "Oh, you'd make a great Montessori teacher." And I went home. I mean, there wasn't the internet or Google back then, but I did go to the library, I think, and researched about what it was. And I really loved the philosophy and the idea behind it. So I decided to enroll with the London Montessori Centre and did my diploma. And then I did an internship in Florida. So I was there for about 4 years. And then I returned back to the UK. Oh, wow. So I practiced Montessori for 3 years, 2.5, 3 years in the UK, and decided I would like to do my teaching degree and perhaps work in the mainstream system. There wasn't really many Montessori preschools around the area where I did live in the UK. So I went back to uni at 29 and worked a couple of days in a Montessori school, one of the 2 that was in the whole area. And after my 4 years, I got into the school system, and I still wanted to work with the early years sector. That's always been my passion.
Yeah, I really prefer the younger. You prefer the younger kids.
Yeah, I have taught all through from prep right all the way through to grade 6. But I do particularly like the early years because I'm really keen on the social and emotional side of the way children develop at that age. In fact, part of my degree was psychology and child behavior. I just really loved, human behavior. Yeah, so yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
So from working with children and coming over to Australia about 10 years ago with my family, I didn't get into the teaching system here. So I didn't want to go away and do the remote teaching because my girls were only 6 and 8 at the time. So I did some kindergarten teaching for about 4 years locally. And then I heard about the family daycare system over here, which we've not really got in the UK. So I thought, maybe I could start a little preschool at home and bring all my knowledge and expertise into one place and see how it goes. And here I am 7 years later. Lots of things have come from this business, actually. And one of the things that I did notice was recently, over the last few years, anxiety seems to be play a big part, especially separation anxiety, but even in adults and children. And that's something that I experienced firsthand. And I thought, well, maybe I can help children because I'd learned a lot about it and had lots of tools. So I started.
This was before COVID happened. So you already noticed this happening before, right? Yeah. So this was something.
3 or 4 years ago. Yeah. So I just was running on adrenaline. Teaching's a big job, and I think you give everything, and I just burned out, and that's why I wanted to go smaller as well. And through that I experienced anxiety, and I learned all about what it meant and being in the present moment. And I'm like, well, how can I felt like that was my calling. I'm like, how can I help children deal with this, and what tools do I use? So I started bringing yoga in, meditation and things like that. So parents are always asking advice on separation anxiety and anxiety itself. So I set up a Facebook group, and I just kind of explored a little bit, and that ended up more about tips and, you know, things that toddlers and young children did. And I just felt that wasn't the way I wanted to go. So when I really thought about it, I thought, I'm really good at communicating and writing. They're my strengths. I didn't think about art at the time because I didn't know I was going to illustrate the book. And I thought, let me just think about if I could express through a book, telling a story, then it's a really nice way for parents to connect through a book and subtly pass the message on about connectedness. So I just started writing this book one day. In fact, I woke up and had this dream, and I had the dream of this vivid peacock. In fact, I'll show you a little picture. I dreamt to this peacock, a rainbow peacock.
Wow. That's
and
so cool.
I got up and painted it that day. I've not painted for about 20 or 30 years. And I thought this peacock was going to have like 7 colours, and I'm going to write a series of 7 books. And in each colour of the rainbow, there's going to be a different emotion. It just kind of all came together. Yeah. So I started writing the book, and it came to the point where I needed an illustrator. And it just seemed in the too hard basket trying to communicate. I thought, am I going to communicate with someone maybe overseas? I don't want to pay for it done on the cheap. I want it done properly. And I thought, why don't I illustrate it? I can paint. I've not painted for years. Yeah. So the next minute I've done page 1, and I'm like, oh, this is really fun. Until I got to about page 5, and it felt like a mountain. I'm like, what have I set on here? I'm running the business and I'm painting as well. And it just seems so hard trying to paint animals, which is not my strength. But I kept thinking, I've got to keep going now. This is, you know, people kept pushing me on. Yep. So I then had to decide about the title. I came up with the Powerful Peacock because I wanted this peacock character to be a bit like a counsellor or an advisor, and he only turned up and appears when there's animals in this first book, when the animals needed some answers or, you know, just some advice. So he's a bit like a counsellor in a way, but in a gentle way. And so from there, really, when people started buying my book, they were like, wow, I can't believe you've hand painted these illustrations, and maybe you could do art classes with our children. So I always used to think, where am I going to get my clients from? And then someone said one day, well, you've got your clients, you've got all your families. Right. So yeah, it was weird. It was right under my nose. So I'm like, well, this makes sense. Let me do some workshops. And they filled up. I started doing them in school holidays, and we started adding positive and empowering affirmations. So children could really step into their power and think about what good things they could contribute to the world. You know, like, I am confident, I am creative, I'm a good friend. So that element is in the workshops, and teaching them how to do watercolours, because it is a watercolour painted book. Cool. So that's where it kind of started with the art classes. And I've got a little picture here. That's my book. That's the artwork.
Yay. Beautiful. So I love how you've done the feathers and the look at the little deer.
Yeah, the little feathers. There's
cute.
a blue one there. They're kind of hard to spot, but the idea will be to find the feather in every book. And I started with the blue feathers because I thought a peacock's mainly blue, and it's a little, blues are cool, like cold color. And the story of the emotions is the mum is quite distant. She's not emotionally engaged with the child in here, and this is how the peacock helps connect them again. So it's just a really nice way of, you know, hinting to parents, not like telling parents, but just a nice gesture of how we can just look and acknowledge our child, because we do listen to answer, we don't listen to listen. And just a simple smile, you know, when a child's talking to you, they feel acknowledged and heard, and we all want to feel acknowledged and heard, don't we? So you know, that's what the idea is behind the story really for
That's
parents
so
to.
cool. So in the book, you said that there's animals, and
Yes.
the animals are, what's the main character other than the peacock? So do different animals come and talk to the peacock, or is there one, is the deer the main one?
The main one is, the main one is the deer, and a baby deer in this one, and mum goes off. It's very parallel to how our lives are busy as parents. You know, mums have to work. You know, years ago my grandma was there if my mum was working, and through the generations it's changed, and most families have, you know, 2 people working in them. So the mum goes off on a morning to hunt for berries, but it's almost like an avoidance in this story, that she don't really know how to be around the child because she lost her mum. So that's how the story develops, and then the child's making a few decisions on their own, which is like what I was as a teenager. You know, my parents split up and I was kind of making decisions at 14. You know, I look back now and I'm really grateful for that, but at the time I was making so many mistakes and I just wanted that guidance. So it's just like that acknowledgement as well, where your mum's saying, yeah, you know, that's great, or you did a great job there. I just wanted that acknowledgement myself. So it's a little bit based on that, the story. And I didn't know that when I wrote it. I looked back and I thought that's a little bit similar to my life story.
Well, I think, you know, as an author myself, I know that, you know, my book was actually a non-fiction book. So it was absolutely my life, you know, that I was drawing on. But I meet so many authors that in their fiction stories, their children's books or their whatever novels they're writing, they always draw on their own life experience, and their characters have elements of themselves and elements of their parents and elements of their siblings, whether they're exactly the same, you know, but there's a little bit of us in all of our work, isn't there?
Yeah, it's our life experience, isn't it? So I guess it's what they say, that you think the same thoughts over and over again and carry the same stories. So I guess that is our bodies is that walking text book, if you like. So it just does come out, because that's one big learning from the book, that it's so, even in the second book I started, it's like, wow, this is just so much about what I do in my life. It's weird, you know, and it's easy to write because it's just from first-hand experience.
Yeah. So the second book is the one that you just recently had a dream about?
Yeah, well, the second one, I woke up, I think it was Monday or Tuesday this week, and I was just laid there for 10 minutes in bed. I'm usually up and busy, and I was just thinking of this really cool story, and it was almost like it had come out of my sleep. And you know, when you think in the shower in the morning, all the good ideas come, and I think in those moments of quietness, answers come to me, and I'm just suddenly thinking about this story, and it's nothing to do with the peacock, because I thought that would be my second book following on, and I'm like, no, I'm just going to go with this one. And it's got elements of the peacock, you know, like the tree and the hearts and the river, so it's unfolded really interesting. That, so I thought, write this down quickly while it's in my mind, and then today when I went to write it up fully, I'm glad I wrote those notes, because I'd remembered it a little bit different, and I went back to my notes and I'm like, no, the notes flow really well.
Right.
So that's my next story.
So cool that you say that, because I was reading Elizabeth Gilbert's book, Big Magic. And one of the things that she talks about is when an idea comes at you, galloping at you, and if you don't grab it by the tail, it will disappear and go off to somebody else if you don't grab it and take hold of it and like do it. And she said there was a lady, she was talking about a poet from a long time ago, an older lady who told her that she used to be out in the field or, you know, doing the washing or whatever, and she'd have an idea that would come and she'd have to run into the house and get a piece of paper and write down the idea really quickly, because otherwise it would like gallop off in the opposite direction. And I just thought that was such a beautiful imagery around what it feels like when an idea comes to you and you're just like, oh, I have to write this down straight away. You know, that's why musicians write on like napkins, and you know, you hear how people have that sort of moment of inspiration, and if you don't write it down, like you say, when you wake up from a dream, if you don't write it down straight away, it sort of fades off into, and it disappears, and you go, oh, what was that idea that I had about a tree and a heart and and you remember bits of it, but Yeah, I love that concept of it galloping towards you and you have to grab it.
And the thing is as well, I've heard that if you don't do it, someone else will have that idea years down the line and you will have wished you'd done it. And I've seen that happen before. Like even the other day I was having a self-care day, and I'm really big on that. That's also part of what I practice with parents that come to me. And I'm just thinking I could help parents create this. So then I got out of the bath and I'm writing all these notes, and I texted my friend and said, I've got this really good idea. Do you think parents would like it? She's like, sign me up. And she said, get that done now. You might even get that out before Christmas.
Yeah, fantastic.
So it's really important to do like what you say, write it down, and or you forget and it becomes someone else's.
Right. And what Elizabeth says is that if you don't take it, she actually says things like, if the idea is not right or it doesn't fit with her schedule, she'll say, thank you for coming. I hand you off to somebody else to take the mantle and do this idea. And she does it in sort of rather than getting sad or going, oh, that was my idea, she says the idea went to somebody else because I couldn't give it the time or whatever. And I love that sort of concept of it's everybody's idea, but not everybody's going to take action on it.
Yeah, I like that. That resonates, definitely.
It was gorgeous. So yeah, I love that book is one of my little I grab it when I need to get that inspiration and reminder of magic when you are creating things. So
yeah, I like her work.
Yes, me too. And I love that she does fiction and non-fiction. So she's very clever in the way that she writes. But so the Powerful Peacock is the first one. And then have you got a name for the second book yet, or is it not quite formulated?
I'm just toying around with it. It's either going to be, my first book's got lots of rainbows in, and I think even my art style is about vibrancy and colour, and I like those that number 7 and those colours. So I think I'm going to it's just actually going to be in that book. So I'm going to use all the hearts, and it's going to be about a tree. I don't know if it's going to be a magic tree or the abundance tree. The title sometimes comes and then the book comes, and then you go back and tweak the book. It'll depend really. I'll have to look as well, see if there's any other books with those names.
Right. So that sounds great. That's so
title
cool.
Not definite yet, but the plot's there.
I know, I love it. I think sometimes the title is really obvious. Like my book, Finding My Soul at Sea, I always called it that. It started out as that and it never changed. Whereas other people will say, oh, I went back and forth between, a number of different titles, and sometimes it's not clear until you finish the book. How it's going to be, what it's going to be called. So that's fantastic. So now that we've kind of talked a little bit about the book, you touched on it a little bit earlier about the workshops that have kind of evolved from that. You said that you had been painting before. So what do the workshops involve when someone comes to a workshop? And you've got one coming up in January, is that right? Well, you've got 2 workshops coming up, but maybe you could sort of share a little bit about what the workshops involve.
Yeah, sure. So from the book, the parents, who was in my care, just said, I really love your artwork and that you've done it by hand. That's a great example for children to see, like non-digital arts in books. So they said, well, have you ever thought of doing art classes? Which I've been asked a few times by parents over the years. So I said, I suppose I could create something. I said, but I really want it to align so the children are, I'm really big on intrinsic motivation. So I thought I want it to be something where they take their power back. And I'm like, I'm going to call it the Empowering Peacocks. So it's almost like a little club that's come from the peacocks. The children are called the Empowering Peacocks. So every school holiday, I put together like a 3-hour workshop at my home, and it's usually in watercolours. And the first one started off with a peacock, and it had lots of affirmations on its feathers. And the children, they learn about the watercolour washes. I did a rainbow wash in the background, and then they designed a peacock on top, and we got all the feathers out and all the crafts and everything. But I hired a yoga teacher to come in because I thought it's really great to bring that mindfulness in as well. I want to teach tools that children can use and go into adulthood with that are normal to them. I'd never heard of yoga till about 10 years ago. So like it's more, children are doing that more now. So I created this workshop, and I just trialed and tested it. The second one, we did Zumba classes, and the kids loved that. So I had little workstations, and I had 12 the second time. It got overbooked, and I thought, to try and get 12 children doing some artwork and all these different things in 3 hours, I thought I'm going to go back and scale it back to about 8 or 9, because after it I just thought, I think I need a week off. Because like Catherine, and you know, we've got air dryers involved, and you name it, lots of glue and glitter and everything. So we went back to 8, and then the COVID hit, so I went to try and do it online, and I spent quite some time creating an online course, which started off with sunflowers and affirmations. What does a sunflower make you feel? That never took off. Everyone said, I like the connectedness, I like my kids to come to you. And I think I was panicking that like, oh, you know, the COVID might be here forever, I need to go online, but it just didn't work. And it took me a while to just accept that I wasn't going to be an online.
Just let it.
So I thought I'm going to go with the flow and go back to doing them in person. So we've got our Christmas one coming up on the 16th, not the 16th, sorry, I'm getting mixed up with that. It's 21st, Monday the 21st of December. And as soon as I launched that last week, that's pretty much filled up. I've only got a couple of places left, and that's $35. And I run it at my home in Queensland on the Sunshine Coast. And I think you're putting the links to this.
I will. Yes, we'll put the links to the workshops and to where they can get the book from as well, to the website. So they're underneath the video that you're watching now, so they can look at that. So the kids self-discovery retreat is in January, which is the 21st. That's the 16th of Jan, and the Christmas one is on the 21st of December.
So I thought about putting the energy one, the kids energy one is a different one. So I had an appointment with my nutritionist, Rebecca Rowe, about, I don't know, a few months ago, and we just got talking. It just happened we got the same birthdays, and we're both into Reiki, and we were like, you know, we'd be really good at bringing something together for children. And before I'd left her driveway, we'd created this whole workshop, and we'd put it together, and we'd launched it for October, and it was really, really great. We did it up at her house up in Yamundi on the coast, and the children that came were so beautiful. She got them in a circle and did this and the kids absolutely loved the meditation. We thought, how will they go with the meditation? And they like got up from it and said, gosh, I love that meditation, can we do it again? So children really do need that. And she's taught them about holding an energy ball and putting all your emotions into this ball. So I did some painting with color therapy and emotions, and talked about what colors can feel like. Red could make you feel angry. And we just used that one as a basis. And then we've decided to paint these. I'm going to be painting these energy balls, well, the children are, in watercolors. And I'm going to try and get them to think deeper about color and emotion, and they're going to express. So my message has basically become, art is a tool for self-care and for connecting. And really for children, I think they're not getting as much art as they would like from talking to children firsthand at school. And they are so eager to get straight into the art part of anything. So I feel that there is a need and a gap for that. So that's why I'm continuing to expand with older children as well, because the second one is for 7 to 11, whereas the first one is more age 5 to 8 or 9. So we've got a crossover going now. So I hope that the one on the 16th will attract more children. Firstly, because it's the second one we're doing, it's in a different location, and by the end of the holidays, the kids might be getting ready to do something, and so might the parents. So we've put it there, especially in the middle of January, a week or so before they go back to school. So they've got something to look forward to if they want to come to it. A little bit of psychology there.
Yes, definitely.
Parents.
And the other thing is, what about the workshops for the parents? Have you been doing any of those yet?
Yes. So in May, as soon as the numbers were lifted in Queensland, we have been so lucky with the restrictions. The timing, I don't know how it happened, Pip, but my best friend said to me, Catherine, why don't you do adults? You're always doing for children. And I'm like, oh, I don't know what it would be like teaching adults. And it's actually been a pleasure. I love it.
Yeah.
You're not spoon feeding them like children. You've got to break it down, whereas you just show them the paints and the water and the technique, and they're like, children, oh, let me at it. I've never used watercolor. And the stories that I hear from adults is that at school, the teacher took the paintbrush out of their hand and they've never done art since. Right. So basically, I just opened up these watercolor classes, and I think I've done about 5 or 6 this year in between all the workshops and running the business. I don't know where I find time. And the women really loved the art workshops, the watercolor ones, and I've really done lots of work on mandalas. So I said to the women, why don't we do a workshop and have a whole day and block it out 10 till 4. You're telling me you've not got enough, time to finish your artwork. Let me do some magic. So I added in a cacao, told them how to do a cacao ceremony, and we did some art therapy activities with meditation, and we did some mandalas, and I taught them how connectedness comes into the art and how the wholeness of the mandala works. We did a lot of, well, not a lot of psychology, but they really were fascinated with that. And I've already been asked to do another one for a friend next year. So I asked the women, how often would you benefit from these? And they said at least every quarter, because you make that time and you book it and you come. And some of them said it's so nice to have a drink made for you when you've got young children, so that's cool as well. So I'll be doing more of those.
Fantastic. So that's so simple, isn't it? Isn't it beautiful how it's just evolved so naturally, and you haven't had to force it? And I always find that I know that it's right when it's really, really easy and it flows and it just sort of opens up and people call you, like, for example, how we met, you knew one of my other good friends, Andrew, who had, he had a beautiful interview about his children's books, and then you called me, and I just thought it's so amazing when you start to do the things that you really love and then people get attracted to it. It's fantastic.
It is. And like when I opened my little daycare at home, I thought my husband doesn't like change, so I thought I'll not tell him. So I've been doing all the background work and getting the checks done and the gates on and everything. And then one morning I woke up and said, I'm handing my notice in today. And he's like, what? I says, I'm going to be opening daycare on Friday. And he's like, where are you going to get all the kids from? I said, I don't know. I'm hoping they'll just come to me. Anyway, I'd filled all my spaces within 48 hours, and it's been like that for the last 7 years. So I said, I think I'm meant to be doing this, because the right families that align with me just seem to find me rather than me advertise, and it's word of mouth. So it's really interesting how you say the flow just happens. And I used to always want to push things and make them happen. I'm a planner, but I've learned since I've had my own business to just trust that things are going to happen for you. Definitely.
It's such a huge thing. That trust is it's massive. The biggest thing, isn't it? Yeah. So if people want to get in touch with you, they can get in touch with you through the school, or they can get in touch with you directly through Catherine Haigh Facebook page. What's the name of the school again, so everybody knows?
The preschool is called Lily Pilly's Montessori Family Daycare. That's on a Facebook page. Yes. Like a business page. Yeah.
So I'll put that link in the blurb as well.
Okay. And I am recruiting for next year, because I've got most of my little munchkins are off to school and prep. Some of them have been with me as long as 4 years. And I've just got a few more spots available next year. So I've not had it like this before, but again, I'm trusting.
Yes.
And I'm trusting the universe. And then I've got another business page under Catherine Haigh, author and illustrator. Just built the stuff on there. That's where we put all our workshops and the children's workshops and art workshops. Yeah.
Okay, great. So I'll make sure that all of those links are underneath the video, so that everybody can get in touch with you depending on what they're interested in talking to you about as well. Yeah. So it's been a pleasure to talk to you today. And this is, the Indie Author interview series is obviously available to any author You don't have to be an independent author. So get in touch with me at Pip Coleman Author Coach if you would like to be interviewed, just like Catherine. And otherwise, we will talk very soon. Thank you so much for joining me today, Catherine. It's been lovely.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure chatting. I've enjoyed it.
I'll see you soon.
Have a great weekend. Bye.